Back in 2019, on a cool spring day in Hamburg, a 25-year-old woman took the stage at one of the largest digital marketing conventions in the world. And she'd say something that would make a lot of people angry.
Mein Name ist Verena, ich bin die 4. Generation von Balsen. Wir backen seit 130 Jahren Kekse. Ich würde gerne mal mit
Back in 2019, on a cool spring day in Hamburg, a 25-year-old woman took the stage. Back in 2019, on a cool spring day in Hamburg, a 25-year-old woman took the stage at one of the largest digital marketing conventions in the world. And she'd say something that would make a lot of people angry.
Mein Name ist Verena, ich bin die 4. Generation von Balsen. Wir backen seit 130 Jahren Kekse. Ich würde gerne mal mit euch ein Experiment ausprobieren und wir gucken einfach mal, was passiert. Ich würde gerne mal heute nicht versuchen, irgendwas vermeintlich Schlaues zu sagen.
Balsen is a baked goods company, most known for their Leibniz butter biscuit, the Choco Leibniz milk chocolate biscuit, as well as animal crackers. They're a German family-run cookie-cutter company with pastries that are profitable, producing hundreds of millions in yearly revenue. And that revenue is something that Verena made the mistake of appreciating a bit too publicly.
Mir gehört ein Viertel von Balsen, da freue ich mich auch drüber. Es soll mir auch weiterhin gehören. Ich will Geld verdienen und mir Segelyachten kaufen von meiner Dividende und sowas.
This was cringe, not only because she was a 25-year-old family-made millionaire who wanted a yacht, but also because her wealth came from a company that had used forced labor during World War II. From around 1940 to the end of the Second World War, the Balsen Company obtained hundreds of forced laborers to be used at their factory in Hanover. What made things worse for Verena, though, is that she did not take kindly to the criticism of her speech. Later, she told a German tabloid that the forced laborers were before her time, that they were paid exactly as much as German workers, and that the company treated them well. Surprisingly, people didn't think it was a particularly clever clapback. And days later, Verena was taken out of the spotlight and issued a public apology. But it was too late. Balsen stirred the pot, so investigative reporters decided to add some more ingredients. They discovered that the owners of the Balsen biscuit empire had been members of the Nazi Party and donated to the SS. Many of the involuntary laborers used in Hanover came from a factory in Kiev, a factory that the Balsen family had taken over after Nazi occupation. So the Balsens hired a German historian, Manfred Krieger, to investigate them, only after it was convenient for them to do so. Now, whether the Balsens are a family to be upset about, we don't know. Verena Balsen is no Nazi, but we can tell you whether the Balsen family history and how they handled it is truly unique. It's not. The Balsens aren't alone, and they're so far from the worst. Germany is the economic powerhouse of the European Union, a country with an iron grip of the global manufacturing industry and a specialized, powerful Mittelstand. But the strong German economy is built on top of a business tradition that's quite different from other Western countries. Some of its largest and most important enterprises are largely or fully controlled by families. And families have histories.
My name is David de Jong, a Middle East correspondent for the Dutch Financial Daily, and I wrote Nazi Billionaires. Nazi Billionaires is the story of 5 of Germany's wealthiest business dynasties, the way they profiteered from the Third Reich, the way they got involved with Hitler's regime, the way they got away with the crimes, and the way the heirs are dealing with these crimes today.
This is a video about 3 of these families. Families that share a difficult Nazi past, but also produce products that you likely know and can consume today. And 3 families who, instead of fully acknowledging that past, have twisted and turned and fought trying to hide it until, of course, it was convenient not to. Families that have accrued so much wealth and top financial leaderboards, but with names and faces you don't know. So this story starts with a face you probably do. Heinrich Himmler was one of the leading figures of the Nazi Party, and one of the main architects of the Holocaust. He was appointed by Hitler to the Reichsführer of the Schutzstaffel, which eventually led him to the position of Reichskommissar for the strengthening of the German ethnic stock. Himmler could decide who was German in occupied areas and how to efficiently handle those who were not. He established the first concentration camp, which impressed Hitler so much that Himmler was tasked with establishing the entire system. He was entrusted with implementing the final solution of the Jewish question, and his Einsatzgruppen alone killed nearly 2 million people. But we're not here to talk about the atrocities of Himmler. We're here to talk about his friends. The Freundeskreis der Wirtschaft was a group of German industrialists that served as a middle ground between Nazi Party and industry. The group coordinated around 1 million German marks to be used by Himmler outside of budget, which included the Aryan eugenics research. One of the especially passionate Nazis in that group was the CEO of a company most know a bit too well. Richard Kosolowski.
He was a Nazi ideologue. He had a portrait of Hitler in his office.
He handed out signed copies of Mein Kampf to new employees, and in Himmler's inner circle, he attended practically every meeting at the Aero Club in Berlin. Kosolowski funded Himmler's Lebensborn, the plan to support Aryanization by seizing children from parents, categorizing them, and reassigning them to different ones, with the unwanted ones being murdered in concentration camps. Luckily for Kosolowski, he was the stepfather of a child who would never have to be reassigned. Rudolf August Oetker.
Dit is een Big American's Pizza.
Verkruimelde kandijkoekjes.
Lay it La Familia way.
Führerische Pizza-Restaurante.
Gaat Dr. Oetker'den.
Go to a frozen food section of your local supermarket or look for baking supplies, and you'll be sure to encounter that same name. Dr. Oetker is one of the largest family-run German multinationals on the planet, with yearly sales revenue in the multi-billions. Rudolf August considered his stepfather Richard Kosolowski, the CEO of Oetker, his real father.
I couldn't imagine a better father than Richard Kosolowski, Rudolf August said in an interview with a German newspaper more than a half a century later, nor a better teacher for me.
Unlike his real father, Rudolf August was a real Nazi. Rudolf August was not drafted, but volunteered to join the Waffen-SS.
It was only for the most fervently ideological Nazis who would join the Waffen-SS. It was a very stringent training and a very stringent selection process, so it was abnormal in that sense.
Rudolf August later claimed that he didn't know the extent of the concentration camps, which was weird because he trained in one.
So part of Rudolf August Oetker's training took place at Dachau concentration camp, and he would later claim that the barracks were separate from the concentration camp, but in fact it was part of the same complex, and concentration camp prisoners would clean the barracks of the aspiring SS officers that were trained there.
Yet, Rudolf's Nazi past never really mattered after the war ended. Although his family benefited from Aryanizations, the use of forced and slave labor, Rudolf August was detained only for his role in the Waffen-SS. The denazification of Rudolf August Oetker never even went to trial. Instead, he was exonerated by an internal subcommittee made up entirely of his company's own employees. A few months later, British officials confirmed his exoneration. He lied that he was forcibly moved to the Waffen-SS, even though he volunteered and also had a knack for Aryanizing property. So instead, Rudolf August was made CEO. And over the next few decades, he turned Dr. Oetker into a multi-billion euro empire. When he died in 2007, the company was distributed among his 8 children, making each of them individual billionaires.
And they each inherited a similar stake in the Dr. Oetker conglomerate, which at this point was, one of the largest privately owned companies in Germany.
But Rudolf was a quiet man, so he was able to hide his past quite well. In a press statement to us, the Oetker Group clarified that he in fact vetoed any investigation into the Nazi history of the company until after his death. It wasn't until 2008, a year after his death, that Rudolf's children commissioned historians to truly understand their company's history, and an uncomfortable history they found. In 2013, August Oetker, his eldest son, acknowledged that his father was a Nazi. But this announcement does not mean that the family was suddenly okay with being fully transparent about their past. Rudolf August married multiple times. Although the older Oetker children were open to commissioning the study, the 3 younger children were less receptive. The mother of the three youngest, Maya, rejected the investigation's claim that her late husband was a committed Nazi, but Rudolf was, of course, a quiet man. In order to maintain harmony and unity within his family, Rudolf August had hoped that his eldest son August would train Alfred to take over the position of CEO, a forced power split between oldest and youngest. But when August gave up operational management, he'd promote his younger brother Richard instead. This was enough to split Dr. Oetker into two, and today they still remain ideologically divided.
There were two foundations under Dr. Oetker.
But where the eldest siblings decided to change the foundation named after their Nazi grandparents, the youngest siblings decided to keep their Rudolf August Foundation
As it is, without any kind of cognizance of his history as an Waffen-SS officer.
In a statement to us, the younger siblings' communications team argues that the name of their foundation is kept because the family has already transparently dealt with their past through their commissioned historical study and provenance research into the Oetker art collection. A majority of Oetker sales are generated outside of Germany, but go to their English site and you'll have a hard time figuring out who Rudolf August Oetker or his stepfather really were. You can find the link to the study they commissioned, but you can only buy that book in German. In English, you can learn that Rudolf August rebuilt and helped diversify Dr. Oetker on the company website, but you'll see no mention of him voluntarily signing up to join the Waffen-SS. Today, his children are some of the wealthiest people on the planet, and although the Oetker children have put some questionable effort into bringing attention to their family's Nazi past, there are some families who have put in no effort at all. In this video, we are discussing dark family secrets, which should be revealed and openly discussed. But there are certain types of information that should stay private. Information such as your personal data. Online data breaches are rising worldwide. The business of data brokers is booming. They sell aggregated profiles with security numbers, login credentials, addresses, and much more. If your mailbox is full of spam, or if you're receiving a robocall from time to time, it might be because you're on some of those lists. Incogni, the sponsor of today's video, reaches out to data brokers on your behalf, requests your personal data removal, and deals with any objections from their side. Through the link in the description below, and with the code FERNTV, you can get an exclusive 60% discount on an annual Incogni plan. Our sponsors enable us to fund time and money consuming projects like this one, so feel free to check out Incogni. We think that data protection cannot be valued highly enough. In May of 2017, 3 people met at a restaurant outside of Munich. A publisher, a journalist from a Bavarian public state broadcaster, and a man named Ernst Knut Stahl. According to the publisher, under oath, Stahl had said, "There's danger ahead. There's a street in New York with lots of investment bankers, lawyers, and so forth. Coincidentally, they are all Jews, but that's not relevant here. They want to push Germany into ruin. They control